Hey, this is Lex, and welcome to Lipstick and Liberation, a podcast from the perspective of a 40-year-old Black feminist navigating art, social life, social media, literature, film, politics, and any other things that I think about. Thank you guys so much for coming back for another week. This week was so successful. I had so many new listeners and so many new likes on my Facebook page. Thank you guys so much for supporting me. If you want to help keep this podcast stored, you can always subscribe. You should see the option where you're listening to the podcast at. Subscribing helps me to keep it stored, like I said. Also, you can buy me a coffee. That link is on my Facebook page, but I really love it if you leave a review wherever you listen to your podcast. And also like the Facebook page so that I can continue to grow my audience. That would mean so much to me. But if all you have are your ears to loan me, then thank you so much. I am so happy to receive those. I appreciate any and everybody that took time out to listen to me. As with my lipstick, so with misogyny, I always get the shade right. This week, I want to take a moment to talk about a news story that really broke my heart. It is a feminist issue. It is about Evelyn Payton and Olivia Decker, who were unalived by their father, who was a homeless man. Travis Decker, the police are looking for him. And what upset me about this story the most is that he received visitation, even though he was homeless, to see his children. Now, the family court system, so many people will say that it favors women. It absolutely doesn't. Just like every system in this country, it is patriarchal. At one point, men were not paying child support. They were just abandoning their children, and the women were going on government assistance. It's only been within the last couple of decades that the government has been more about reinforcing them paying child support, and that's to get the women off of government assistance. So as they've been forcing men to pay child support, more men have been going for custody and visitation to lessen the burden. In the case of this man, he was homeless, so likely he was trying to have some kind of control over the life of his ex-wife and children. And when he got that control, he used it to unalive them. And this is so sad because this happens to girls very often, girl children. And family court does not listen to women. When women talk about the abusiveness of their male partners who are fathers, they are often punished for that. They're often punished for speaking on it. People treat it like they're trying to keep them away from their children. At some point, though, we have to realize that the violence that men enact upon society, it doesn't just, happen between men. Men are the most likely unalivers of everybody, women, other men, and children. And we know that. We have the data and the statistics that back that up. But because of patriarchy, family court believes any man that shows up and says that he wants to be with his children must want to be with his children for good reasons. They don't look at the fact that the mother may have said, hey, this guy is controlling. He's abusive. He wants to be with these children so he can see me every couple of weeks and continue to yell at me and berate me. He wants to punish me for leaving him. And unfortunately, sometimes that punishment goes so far as they harm the children. And instead of taking this seriously, family court allows this to happen. They facilitate it. And yes, this is a women's issue. This is a feminist issue because this is about domestic violence a lot of times. A lot of times when women do not want their child's father to have access to the child, it is because he was domestically violent towards them. And the courts will ignore this. They'll say, well, did he abuse the child? Now, we're all logical human beings. If a grown man will abuse another grown person that has the ability to leave, the agency to leave in some cases, can file court paperwork, can call the police, it only makes sense that if they have power over a child, that they will be abusive to that child in some way. And it is quite unfortunate and it's quite deadly. It's costing us our children. Not only are women losing their lives to domestic violence, but children are too. This epidemic of violence from men upon families, the whole family unaliver thing, we're losing people to this. And we're only losing people to this because courts want to give men the benefit of the doubt. Instead of really investigating what women are saying, instead of really investigating very credible claims of domestic violence, they're trying to shuffle us out the door. They're shuffling our kids out the door. They're giving our kids away to men who are violent. Some of them even have police records. And where are the standards at? How did this guy get visitation as a homeless person in his car? Like, this is how low the bar is for men. When I often say that the bar for fatherhood is in hell. And it absolutely is. I have no doubt in my mind that a woman who is coming to visit her kids in an SUV will be treated more harshly and more critically by the court than a man. A man doing this is seen as he's doing his best. He's doing everything he can to see his kids. Instead of seeing the ulterior thing in that he is trying to still stay in the life of a woman who doesn't want him anymore. And oftentimes when it finally settles in that the woman doesn't want them anymore, then they try to find some way to get rid of the kids too. It wouldn't surprise me if when they find this father, he's no longer alive. They often unalive themselves and the children. And it's to punish the woman. Who's left alive? Who's left to suffer? The mother. The mother who's going to feel guilt because she allowed the children to go with him even though she was court ordered. So many women who are court ordered to do these things, they still feel guilt because they feel like I could have fought harder, even though the attorney fees cost so much, even though the courts ignore you, even though you get in trouble if you don't do what they say. They might take your children away from you anyway. It is a mother's instinct to protect her children, and the family court takes away that ability from women, knowing full well that some of these men are violent and dangerous, but they don't want to hold them accountable. And that's where we got to stop and think, ladies. This is not something you were told. Before you had children with men, you were told that lie, that the courts favor women. You thought that you had some built-in protection. If somebody's hurting my children, somebody's going to do something. And then a lot of us got into court and we found out that's a big lie. We're stuck with this abusive person. We're not going to be able to get away from them. The children are going to suffer because of this. It's a lie. So much of the things that we have been told about growing up, getting married, and having children with men are predicated on lies that fooled us into doing it and put us in terrible, terrible situations that we don't have very much power in. And we got to be realistic about that. The older women are telling you this stuff so that you will know. And so many more women, I'm so glad that they're not having children with men because we don't have a society that holds men accountable. We have a society that keeps a cloak up like they do. They don't go to jail for a long time for domestic violence. They don't lose the rights to their kids for domestic violence. You will get stuck with dealing with them and them terrorizing you. And if you report it, then the courts will punish you more than likely than they will punish him. So know that, ladies. Like when we are telling you this stuff, we're trying to tell you this stuff to save you from the fairy tale that you've been given. We've been told a fairy tale our whole lives about how men are logical and men do the right thing. Their word is their bond. And if you find the right man and he falls in love with you, you'll have kids. And if he doesn't do what he's supposed to do, the court's going to protect you. It's not. Everything is set up in favor of men. And you have to really, really, really weigh what kind of risks you want to take as a woman, because all of this is risk on your part. If you want to take any, I would recommend taking as few as possible, because once you find this stuff out, there's no going back. There's no starting the game over. There's no resetting so that you don't have to deal with this violent person if your child's father is violent. And they know that. The men know that you have been duped. The men know that they have told you these things and it is not true. And they are ready to enact that violence to keep you in check if need be. It's a sad, sad reality. And I feel so bad for these little girls. I feel so bad for any women who are dealing with family court right now and trying to protect their children, because they did not know that they were going to have to do this. Nobody tells us. This is some of the stuff that nobody tells us before we become mothers, before we get married, that these things are not going to be easy, that we are not going to be favored, that we are not going to be listened to, that it really and truly is a man's world, even when it comes down to something that you gave birth to, someone that you brought into this world and want to protect. Their rights as a father matter more than the safety of the child. And once you know that, then you can make better decisions. So that's why we're here. That's why we're telling you. I am so sorry for these little girls. I'm so sorry for their mom that she's going to have to suffer like this. And I know she's going to feel immense guilt, but it's not her fault. It is the society that we all live in. It is the society that is built around the idea that men are these wonderful, benevolent people while their violence and everything else is overlooked, so we can keep this facade up. It's a facade. And as we are seeing through it as women, it's our job to go back and tell the younger women so they know the information. This is why they don't want you to have access to abortions. This is why they don't want you to have access to no-fault divorce, because it is their world to be violent towards us, and there's not a lot of recourse. Know that, ladies. Know that. And when you know that, you have to understand romantic love should not be our priority. We are losing our rights day to day. Falling in love, going on dates with men, that should not be a priority right now. Men are not prioritizing our ability to leave bad marriages. Men are not prioritizing our ability to get abortions if we need abortions. And trust, if you find out that you are with somebody who is an abuser, you need an abortion. If you're in within that time frame where you can get one, you need one, because you need to get away. And they are preventing us from having those rights. So why are you guys bending over backwards, focused on trying to date them and marry them? Don't fall for this trad wife propaganda. That stuff is trying to take your eye off of the reality that we are all seeing. The reason that women are not getting married and having children is because women are talking to older women, and they can see, they're hearing from us, they're learning that this is not what it looks like. And they know that. That's why they're creating that trad wife propaganda and putting all that stuff out there about baking bread, oh, and just have kids, and it's so nice. It's a fantasy. It's not the reality. Those women, if their husbands that they're baking bread for become violent, they don't have recourse the same as you wouldn't. They're not going to put that up. They're not going to make a TikTok about that. There's no way to make that look pretty. Everything that glitters is not gold when it comes to patriarchy, especially. So be mindful, ladies. Your job, your duty is to fight for our rights, to earn as much money as possible, to become independent. If you gotta have a baby, you make sure who you are having a baby by is the most upstanding, best guy you could ever get. Do not settle. Do not settle. If there's ever a question, don't have his baby. And he better be out there fighting for your rights too, every day, all day. And you don't have to have a man. Go to the sperm bank if you really want a baby. Go to the sperm bank. But understand, we are in a fight right now. We are in a fight for our safety and our rights. For the rights of our children, the safety of our children. And if men aren't going to step up and help protect these things, if they're going to try to hold on to and claw their way into more power and taking away our options and our autonomy, then it's not worth being worried about dating them. They're not worth it. We are losing our sisters. We are losing our children. They need to stand up and do something about it, or they don't need to be dating us. You need to focus. Focus, ladies. And let's talk about something else that was going on this week. Kobe Bryant's widow. The whole thing with Kobe Bryant's widow really demonstrates how men look at other men's wives as property. It's so interesting how he has been gone for 5 years, and just the notion that she might have been pregnant by someone else really, really bothered men and got them riled up. They were talking about it on social media. And it's quite fascinating because Kobe was at minimum unfaithful during their marriage. I mean, with the allegations against him, which I think he did rape that girl, honestly. But with the allegations against him, at best, he cheated on his wife. And you didn't find men being extremely critical about cheating on his wife, because it's expected that husbands cheat on their wives, especially athlete husbands. So while she's alive and he's alive, it's okay for him to sleep with other people, but he dies and it's not okay for her to sleep with anyone else, because she still belongs to him. A man never belongs to a woman. And that's why it's okay for them to cheat and do whatever they want to do, because they're still a person who's allowed to have a life outside of their wife. Their wife is their property. They're never our property. So he was allowed to cheat and do whatever he wanted while he was alive. He dies. She still is not allowed to move on and live her life. That is the double standard. That is one of the many ways that patriarchy kind of plays itself out. You see it coming out of men. They're saying to Vanessa Bryant, you can't move on. You belong to Kobe Bryant. Even though it says in the marriage vows, till death do you part. Men don't even believe in that. Women have to perform widowhood for so long. Otherwise, they kind of lose this value if you move on too soon. Meantime, men, their wives will be dead and they'll have a new wife in 6 months, because as we know, as much as men try to get on social media and talk down marriage, they literally die more quickly if they don't have a wife, because they don't know how to manage their lives without women. So a man will lose his wife and be right on. He'll be sleeping with new women, hiring sex workers if he can't get a traditional date. He will be moving on immediately. But a woman is supposed to be circumspect and mourning, and she can't. 5 years later, it's still a scandal. The idea that she might have slept with another man and conceived his child. Now, this isn't true, but that's Vanessa Bryant's right. She is a human being. She's an autonomous human being. She doesn't have to mourn Kobe Bryant for the rest of her life. She can. We don't even know what that marriage was really like. That's the thing. That was a tumultuous marriage. If people really remember it, I mean, I'm glad that, she is dealing with that. However, you can love somebody and have problems in your marriage, etc. But it's just so fascinating to me that people were so okay with how he treated her. I still remember, bitch, you weren't shooting with me in the gym that second time they were about to get divorced. And men were cheering him on about how he was treating her. But he dies, and she's supposed to be faithful to his memory for all of eternity. Like, you just, like I said, ladies, if you're listening, You just, the older you get, you kind of realize how ridiculous all these expectations are. And even though you can see it, other men are still perpetuating that idea that that's okay. So live your widowhood on your own terms. Live it on your own terms, ladies. Most widows don't want to get married again because they realize that being married is a burden. Most women, they don't want another husband. My mom is a widow, and I know she doesn't want another husband. Honestly, I'm divorced, and I don't want another one either. So a lot of women aren't going to do that anyway. But like I said, men are very hypocritical about that because they expect a virginal, almost dedication to a man's spirit. Meantime, they'll cheat on their living wife and then have a new wife 6 months after their actual wife dies, if it's them. These are the people they want us to believe are the logical gender, mind you. But anywho, that's also kind of translates into what's going on with Cardi B and Offset and Stefan Diggs right now, where I've seen so many people call Cardi like so many names after Stefan Diggs has come out in public with her. Mind you, she was married, and according to her, she never cheated on her husband. Her husband cheated on her numerous times. And every time Offset cheated on her, people got on Cardi to take him back. I'll never forget when he came on the stage with those flowers and everybody was getting on social media, take him back, Cardi, take him back. And she took him back. He was a horrible, horrible husband to her from everything that is being said. And now that she has moved on, people are calling her all kind of names. Why aren't they calling him names? He cheated on her the entire marriage. Why are they calling her a hoe? He's the hoe. He's trifling. He's a horrible person. That is the mother of your 3 children, your wife. Where's your respect? Where's your dignity? When are we going to start holding men accountable for being terrible husbands? When are we going to stop letting men act like they own their wives and can treat them however they want to treat them? But as soon as the wife gets fed up and wants to get a divorce, she's the problem. When are we going to stop? When are we going to examine that? As women, we got to examine that. That's internalized misogyny if we're doing that. I think most women, when they get in relationships and they've gotten out of relationships and they really see how it goes, they let that go. But we need to be calling men out about this. And you need to be mindful of men who are talking like this. These are not men you should date. Men that have regressive mindsets like this are dangerous. Further, I think a lot of people are like laughing about how Offset is handling this breakup. We need to be mindful that Cardi said that he is a narcissist and that he is not a mentally well person. And men can become very, very violent when they lose control of women. So I do enjoy seeing that he is unhappy, but at the same time, I'm very cautious, especially as a domestic violence survivor, about being too tickled by it because we don't know what he will do. What we're seeing is just the public stuff that he's doing. We don't know what he's doing behind closed doors. We don't know how he's trying to sabotage her or harm her. So we want to be careful about that because women lose their lives. There are so many men that unalive women because they move on after they've done so many terrible things to them. And then a woman decides to move on and they can't take it. So we need to be mindful while we're sitting here, laughing about this, that at some point her life could be in danger. And that's the other thing, ladies, when we talk about dating, like that is something that you have to factor in with men, is that at some point when you want to get out, it could become dangerous for you. Is it really worth it? Is it really worth it to be dating men if when you want to leave, they can become so ridiculous and dangerous and hurtful and harmful and lash out at you? Like, these are the things you want to think about. When I say we got a different mission going on right now, think about that. Is it worth the risk? I can say I've had a boyfriend where we had a really very friendly breakup. He didn't give me any problems. Like, there was no issues or no mistrust. Like, when we moved out, I didn't think he was taking stuff. He was never nasty to me. It was a good breakup. He was a very good dude. I would never say anything against him. He was a very, very good boyfriend. Probably one of the better people that I'll ever date in my life. But I have dealt with a man who has gotten bitter and angry and done very nasty things beyond my comprehension because I was very naive. I had a really great relationship with my father, and then I had this really great boyfriend. So I didn't even know how nasty men could get. And when I experienced that firsthand, it was shocking. And the more groups I'm in, the more I'm around other women, I see how normal it is. I talk to women all the time that are leaving relationships. And I tell them, be safe, be safe. When I sit down and think about that as a woman, I'm like, wow, all women are trying to do is love these men. And when we want to leave because they're not doing what they said, we got to tell each other, be safe. We got to tell each other, make sure you don't tell them too much about how you're going to leave. We're literally worried about our girlfriends being unalived by people they just tried to have a romantic relationship with. That's what we're risking our lives for. The opportunity to potentially be happy in a relationship. And if it doesn't go well, then, we may be unalived. Think about that, ladies. Really think about that. That is the reality of us having romantic relationships with men. It's dire and it's dark when you really sit down and parse it all out. So I hope that everything, with Cardi goes well. I really am hoping that she will continue to be able to grow, and maybe we'll get this album this year. I don't know. I know that's a small factor, but I do want that album. But I'm hoping that it will be peaceful. I'm not hoping that, it's going to get really, really ugly, because when we talk about things getting ugly with men, then we're talking about violence, and I don't want that for anybody. And it's Men's Mental Health Month. Ladies, do not be gaslit into doing extra work. You don't owe these men to tell them to go to therapy. We tell them to go to therapy all the time. Most of us have told them while in relationships that they want to go, they'll go. But don't be gaslit. That's their business. They need to be talking to each other. Don't be their therapist. Don't be the person that they are working their issues out on. That's not your job. And the last thing I'm going to touch on today is I saw a discussion on Twitter about the color purple. And once again, I don't know why men started bringing this back up, but they were just so angry about it. And The Color Purple, if you're not familiar with it, is a book by Alice Walker. And it really focuses in on misogyny within the Black community, Black men's oppression of Black women. And a lot of Black men have taken issue with it. Spike Lee took issue with it in the past as well. And what I find so interesting about the dialogue of it is that they say that the characters are caricatures. And what I said to one of the Black men that I was having a discussion with this about is, yes, it seems like a caricature to you because you are a Black man, and the Black men in The Color Purple would not have treated you like they treated Celie and Sophia and Squeak. So maybe not to you, they're not that bad. Much like white people, like I said, consider people in movies about slavery and Jim Crow, they might think of those white people as caricatures. But no, Black people are like, oh no, that's exactly how they treated us. It's the same thing. What you have to understand is when you're a part of an oppressor class, nobody's making you out to be worse than what you actually were to the people you oppressed. You're just highly uncomfortable with seeing that reality. And Black men need to be able to let that go. You have been oppressive. You have learned things from white men. You have turned around and used them on Black women. And nobody's making you out to be worse than you are. In fact, Black women often cloak your abusive ways. I mean, we see that with Chris Brown and R. Kelly and all the people who are shoot me's and beat me's for Tory Lanez and Chris Browns. A lot of Black women are socialized to cloak your sins. So saying that a caricature is being made about you, you're actually worse. You're actually worse than that. And much like you can say that to white people when it comes to things that they did in Jim Crow and slavery and how it's been portrayed in movies, that's not even as bad as it actually was. So with Mr. and The Color Purple. And you gotta own that. And especially with it being Pride Month, straights, we gotta own that too. We are that nasty to LGBTQIA people. It's not a caricature. We just don't experience it the way they do. But we are that nasty. When you have power and you are hurting other people with your power, you are that nasty to them. Nobody's exaggerating about you. Because you're the oppressor, people are actually socialized to see you as better than you actually are. So you're worse than what they are portraying. Please always remember that. And be kind to each other. Like seriously, listen to each other. Stop letting your ego stop you from seeing how you're hurting other people. That's why you need to go to therapy, because you're like your narcissistic parent who is just so upset that you brought up that they threw a bag of rocks at you because you forgot to wash the dishes, versus actually listening to you say, hey, that was fucked up that you threw a bag of rocks at me because I forgot to wash the dishes. That's you right now. That's who you're being when you're an oppressor, a narcissistic parent. Go to therapy, grow up, and let it go. So ladies, as we close this out this week, I want you to really think about, what are you prioritizing in life? How are you fighting for our rights? How are you decentering men? Is it really in your best interest to be around men and to be dating men? How has dating men set you back in life when you could have been ahead further? Like, really think about those things. We talked about a lot of things today, and so many of you are still so focused on this fairy tale ending with men. What about a fairy tale ending with your girlfriends? What about a fairy tale ending where you complete the things you want? What about a fairy tale ending where you raise children who are loving, kind people, where you raise sons who don't grow up to oppress women? What about that? What about a society where we get to have the right to choose again and our daughters don't have to grow up oppressed? Isn't that far more important than who we get our next orgasm from? When we know good and well, if it doesn't work out, he might take our last breath. Aren't those other things a little bit more important? Just something to think about. Don't fall for the propaganda. Live for our liberation. Until next time, ladies.